Strategy, A History by Lawrence Freedman. Page 64. The Limits of Guile. Although the regular references to deception in the Bible are by no means always disapproving, the serpent's cunning, which gets humankind off to such a poor start, did not set an encouraging precedent. Milton further confirmed the link between cunning and wickedness by identifying the serpent as Satan in disguise. When Milton referred to guile, he connoted fraud, cunning, and trickery. From a strategic perspective, these still could seem preferable to violence and certainly to defeat, but such methods were underhanded, certainly lacking in nobility and bravery. Those who won by such guile would forever have a stain on their character. Even now it is complimentary to describe a person as being without guile. What such a person says can be taken at face value. There is no need to search for hidden meanings. Or else we speak of a victim beguiled by a seductive personality or idea as one detached from normal composure and rationality. A comparable word is wiles, which the philosopher Hobbes employed as an alternative to master the persons of all men he can. The Oxford Dictionary definition conveys the distasteful flavor of wiles, a crafty, cunning, or deceitful trick, a sly, insidious, or underhanded artifice, a stratagem, ruse. Formerly, sometimes in somewhat wider sense, a piece of deception, a deceit, a delusion. Stratagems, as described by Frontinus, involved deceit, surprise, contrivance, obfuscation, and general trickery. A stratagem is still defined as an artifice or trick designed to outwit or surprise the enemy. There were examples in Shakespeare in which resorting to stratagem appeared as less than wholesome, a way of gaining an unfair advantage by surprising the enemy. The Mad Lear's suggestion of a delicate stratagem to shoe a troop of horse with feld was not to be taken seriously. The preference for acting without trickery was made most clear in Henry V, in which the king boasted of a victory achieved without stratagem, but rather in plain shock and even play of battle. The word plot also acquired negative connotations during the 17th century. Its association with dangerous mischief or malevolent scheming was sealed once the failed attempt by Catholic conspirators, including Guy Fawkes, to blow up the House of Commons while King James visited on November 5, 1605, became known as the Gunpowder Plot. Plot has thereafter implied treachery and conspiracy, a perverted plan hatched by a few, dependent on secrecy, geared to overthrowing the established order. Yet the etymology of plot resembles that of plan. Both originally referred to a flat area of ground, then to a drawing of an area of land or a building, then to a drawing to guide the construction of a building, and eventually to a set of measures adopted to accomplish something. A plan became a detailed proposal, setting out how a goal would be attained. The military had their plan of attack or plan of campaign, and these moved from their literal meanings to become metaphors for going on the offensive or embarking on a challenging mission in any context. When matters progressed smoothly, they were going according to plan. Eventually, a plan implied much more than a sensible way of thinking through how to complete some difficult or complicated task. Plot morphed into something similar but less wholesome. The fine distinction between the two was found in Dr. Johnson's 1755 dictionary. A plan was a scheme, while a plot was also a scheme but a conspiracy, stratagem, contrivance as well. There was always a double standard when it came to cunning, trickery, deception, and stratagem. Against your own people, with whom deception should be less easier because you understood them and they were more likely to trust you, it was generally reprehensible, but against enemies it could be acceptable and even admirable if the trick was a good one. The closer the social bond, the more distasteful were attempts to exploit the bond through deception. The weaker the bond, the more difficult it was to deceive successfully. Either way, reliance on cunning was subject to a law of diminishing returns. Once the reputation was acquired, then others would be watching out for tricks. Such tricks were therefore vulnerable to problems in execution or exposure when an opponent had good intelligence. For all these reasons, the influence of cunning and trickery tended to be most evident when small scale and personal. It was possible to trick governments and armies, but this was always a gamble, and might not gain more than a temporary and limited advantage. Once warfare moved to mass armies with complex organizations, there would be limits to what could be achieved by means of guile. The emphasis would be on force.